Welcome to Wilmington, North Carolina, part of Next Gen Network's coverage of 2012 College Easterns. It's a beautiful day out here, mid-70s, with a slight breeze. I'm Brian Jones here with Mario O'Brien. Mario, we have an exciting matchup today. We are looking at the quarterfinals with Pittsburgh versus North Carolina. North Carolina led by Thomas Sayer McCord, and he's been playing well throughout this entire tournament.
Yeah, Sayer McCord is one of the premier players in the tournament, and I'll tell you what, Brian, I'm super pumped to watch this game, specifically because I think this is going to be a defensive grind for both teams. We watched North Carolina yesterday. They have a very specific defensive strategy. They like to force middle, and Pittsburgh, on the other hand, just plays hard man D. They're a reflection of their coach, Kazmarek. They love to play that hard man. I think it's going to be a defensive battle.
Yeah, and that's what Kazmarek has been focusing on for Pittsburgh is that defense. He wasn't happy with them after Stanford invite, but we got to see a lot of Pittsburgh. They made the finals there. Pittsburgh also known for Tyler DiGirolamo, Alex Thorne, great players. DiGirolamo striking deep. Sometimes, though, he is putting it to Alex Thorne. We expect a lot out of them this weekend and a lot out of even some of the UNC players. It's going to be a great matchup.
Absolutely. Thorne and DiGirolamo are the guys for Pittsburgh, but I think if they want to have success down the road, it can't just be those guys. And if it's not those guys, they're taking a risk because they've got lots of freshmen on that offensive line playing with them. And it's going to be important for those younger players to step up and play more of a major role in games like quarterfinals, semis, and finals, in big tournaments like this, to prepare them for nationals.
North Carolina just coming off of a win in the pre-quarters over Dartmouth, going away with it 14-10. Pittsburgh winning Pool A yesterday, going undefeated over Illinois, Florida, and Pittsburgh has been rolling so far. Again, should be an exciting matchup. Pittsburgh is from the Ohio Valley, number 3 team in the nation right now according to USAU rankings. UNC, on the other hand, is fighting for a strength bid for their region, the Atlantic Coast, along with UNC Wilmington at this tournament. This game is important, and it doesn't matter necessarily if it's going to be a win or a loss for the rankings for North Carolina, but they have to keep it close with Pittsburgh, and they can benefit from that. Looks like we're going to get started with North Carolina on offense, and we're going to see featured, as we said, Thomas Sayer McCord, along with Christian Johnson. Johnson, just a sophomore, playing for Chuff, team out of Chapel Hill high school team. Some great high school experience. Johnson is very speedy. Sayer McCord is as well, but Sayer McCord a lot of times is the guy coming in, getting the disc, and then putting it deep to Johnson, among others. And we'll see here if this Pittsburgh defense has picked it up. Kazmarek talking about positioning and lockdown defense and defenders and really what that means.
Yeah, defensively, Kazmarek really talked about 2 specific things. One was their intensity. I'm not worried about Pitt's intensity. They always come out fired up, and it's usually not an issue of whether or not they are, trying hard enough. I think what happens a lot of the times with Pittsburgh defense is they're actually putting in so much effort that they don't put in the mental effort necessary to take things away position-wise.
Right off the bat, Pittsburgh gets a D, and we've seen that intensity picked up. It looks like Ethan Beardsley with the kick block.
And yes, they came out intense, but also they fell right into their defensive scheme. Everyone did their job downfield. The mark rotated, foot block.
Drop Cho starting things off on the end line, dishes it to Kaufman for the easy goal. Captain Zach Kaufman with his first goal of the game. Pittsburgh leads 1-0.
Excellent start for Pittsburgh. That's exactly what they wanted. Kazmarek came out with a great plan for the first point.
Kazmarek talking about wanting to pressure the North Carolina handlers, and there was really nothing available. At that point, the mark knew exactly what was going to happen. Handler tried to go around for the around break. Not available. Kick block to start the game off. Great start, as you said, Mario. We also have, helping us out with stats today, we have William & Mary's Cody Johnston here, keeping track of all the goals and assists.
Yeah, that last defensive possession, in the stats, someone's going to get a block, someone's going to get a foot block. But really, you have to give the credit to everything that happened before the foot block happened. Everybody took away the downfield passes. The dump defender took away the upline cut and forced the handler to try to make a difficult around throw, and then the foot block happened. So lots of things have to happen right for a handler to get a D.
As we get started here, another beautiful pull from Pittsburgh. Sayer McCord, stoppage on the play. Cutters downfield, Justin Moore, number 11, along with Christian Johnson and Zerwa. Sayer McCord starting things off red hot yesterday against Tufts, with leading off the game with 5 straight assists. He's very speedy cutter. However, most of the time he helps facilitate others. Moore putting it deep for Johnson. Tipped in the air. Johnson comes down with it. Finds the open man for the score, and UNC is back on top. They're back tied in this game.
You know, they got the goal here. Still, I would say a victory for Pittsburgh. They forced a difficult throw into traffic. They got their hand on the disc. Unfortunately, they don't come up with a D. But if I'm Kazmarek, I am pumped up about my first 2 defensive opportunities for my defense.
We now see the Pittsburgh offense come on the field, a crew that has played very well together of late. Isaac Saul, Jason Kunsa, Max Thorne, Alex Thorne, Tyler DiGirolamo, big 6'4" receiver. Max Thorne, the younger brother of Alex. Max coming from Pittsburgh's YCC Impulse squad.
Yeah, that YCC team has had a huge impact on the Pittsburgh college team and also the Pittsburgh club team in recent years. We see a lot of those YCC players playing currently on Pittsburgh's team. You're talking the Thorne brothers and lots of great high school players coming up and really just proving to be one of the nation's top youth programs and just one of the top ultimate communities.
We've seen 2 consecutive polls go this way, almost out of bounds. This one going out of bounds. The breeze is going in that direction from right to left on our screen. Saul getting things started from the center position. DiGirolamo off of the backhand break. The Thorne. Saul looking back, things spreading out for Pitt. DiGirolamo coming back almost to the handler position. Thorne, great adjustment by Watson on that throw. Back to Saul. A lot of space downfield. Call on the play.
North Carolina coming down in the defense that they're known for. Force middle.
Matchup. Easy goal for Pittsburgh. The brother connection. Alex Thorne to younger brother Max Thorne. Pittsburgh leads 2-1.
You know, the defensive strategy that North Carolina has used will work against teams that don't have the skills to break it down. Unfortunately for North Carolina, one of Coach Kazmarek's main focus whenever he designs his offense is to attack the break side. When you run force middle, there's actually 2 break sides, depending on what side of the field the disc is on. All of the Pitt players are well equipped with break throws, and that possession was multiple inside-out backhands, uncontested throws, and eventually an uncontested throw for the goal.
North Carolina offense trying to come back down the field. Hopefully we'll see a more consistent possession. Pittsburgh dictating the pace so far, getting what they wanted in that deep shot that was completed, although the defense did get a hand on it. Really this year we've seen Colin Connor just with the pole. He's come out. He's has his coming out party in a way this season. He's played for Pittsburgh for several years now. I believe he's a fifth-year player, captain of the team, and really been one of those lockdown defenders that Kazmarek has talked about. Came alive against Carleton in the semifinals at Stanford Invite, really playing well on some of their top players.
Now taking a look at Pittsburgh defense downfield, their first option is always to take away the underneath pass, and there we see a block coming on the first pass. They prioritize that. They want the disc to go into high-risk situations, which is normally deep, and they really focus on taking away the under.
That was Colin Connor with the D. Inside break up to Kaufman. Drop show is wide open going up the field, and Pittsburgh is rolling up 3-1. And in the red zone, Pittsburgh is now 3 for 3 on their end zone efficiency, capitalizing when they get the disc near the goal line.
And offensively, no one is doing anything special. The thing that's successful right now for them is just doing what they've been taught, throwing the inside out, attacking the break side. The throw that set up that goal, it was not a break side throw. Or sorry, it wasn't a break side cut, but it was a throw that you normally throw to the break side. It was that IO forehand. And in that case, they used it for a throw that was going upfield. You know, it just goes to show that learning those skills, there's not only one situation where you can use throws. There's multiple different situations that you can employ those key fundamentals.
Looking at the other matchups throughout the quarterfinals, we have on the opposite side of the bracket, Tufts facing off against Illinois, Florida facing off against UCF. Winners of those games will go on to face each other, and the winner of this game will get the winner of Stanford versus Ohio. Ohio taking down North Carolina Wilmington in pre-quarters earlier today. Pat Earle's getting set to pull, and this is another young star for Pittsburgh, freshman with lots of high school experience. When Universe Point against Carleton in the semifinals last year, or in Stanford Invite, Pittsburgh called an injury, and who they have come on? Pat Earls, freshman, to come on Universe Point to help take possession and drive things down the field. Looks like we have a foul on the play. Looks like a straight drop.
You know, I think the defender reached around from the backside and actually grabbed onto the arm a little bit, causing the drop.
Stays with Nethercutt. Sarah McCord getting ready to make position. Now coming in underneath, and a tipped in the air, turnover. Earls picking it up. Looking back for his handler. Drop throw trying to get open. Beardsley. Kunsa, excuse me. Finding Hausman. Call on the play. This would be another break, second consecutive for Pittsburgh if they do convert. Finding Kaufman. Kaufman, Zach Kaufman, captain also of Pittsburgh, along with DeGirolamo and Colin Connor.
Center your screen, that's Mitch Degler, our head observer.
Throw to tight space to Kaufman, putting up for Hausman, and Sayer McCord is there. Foul called on the play.
Pittsburgh offense getting a little bit greedy. This is a tough throw, and there really was no window to throw to. And you also have to keep in mind that you're throwing at North Carolina's best player, Sayer McCord.
Looks like this one is staying as a contest. Kaufman coming back, drop throw.
Pittsburgh running their vertical end zone set.
We have an injury on the play. Jonathan Nethercutt down on the field.
Pittsburgh player made an absolutely awesome cut. The ankle breaking cut. Take a look at this cut. who may have gotten away with a little push in the back there, but looks like North Carolina player may have just rolled his ankle.
Yeah, he's gingerly walking off the field. Pittsburgh substituting. Due to the injury call happening when the disc was in the air, Pittsburgh gets the disc with Kaufman. Back to Kaufman. Drop throw. Alex Thorne trying to cut to the open side, coming in on substitution, and drop throw hits him for the goal. Beautiful inside out forehand.
Again, we see Pittsburgh attacking the break side, and that's maybe a slightly riskier throw than maybe Kazmarek wanted, but he also has built that into his offense, and he wants his players to take those shots.
We'll be right back in a moment. We have a timeout on the field. This is Next Gen Network's coverage of 2012 College Easterns. Welcome back to Wilmington, North Carolina. This is Next Gen Network's coverage of the 2012 College Easterns. I'm here with Mario O'Brien. I'm Brian Jones, and we are covering the quarterfinals here, North Carolina versus Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh out to an early 4-1 lead, and they've built that lead on the success of their defense.
Pittsburgh is showing me right now that they have one of the best coached defenses in the country. Not only do they have great coaching, do they have a great plan, but they also have the players and the athleticism to execute their great plan.
Now, if we're looking ahead to great defenses in the country, we're putting Pittsburgh up against Oregon, Wisconsin perhaps. Where does this team fit in with Oregon right now, I think is the question that we're trying to figure out. And Oregon seems to be the clear number one to me. Can this team catch Oregon is the question.
You know, I think this team can definitely beat Oregon on any given day. Oregon's definitely the more high-octane team overall. I would say that they're a more talented team, a more athletic team. But Pittsburgh, I would say, is just a more disciplined team, and they like to win by executing a plan rather than just by being talented or being more athletic.
Things that start Johnson to Sarah McCord, putting it deep. This one hanging in the air. Can Moore chase it down? Grabs it for the goal. Pretty pass by Sarah McCord. That's his first assist of this game.
Sarah McCord dropping a dime here. This is a textbook hook to space. And what was so good about it was that it was flat. He put it out to space, and because it was flat, it was able to hang in the air for a really, really long time. It actually looked, when it initially went up, that the receiver wasn't going to have a play on it because it was so far away from him. But Sarah McCord put touch on it. He kept it flat, and his receiver was able to run through for the easy clap catch.
Also noted there, the receiver, the cut initially was going over to the other side of the field, and he was able to have enough time to turn back around, come back for the disc. North Carolina is going to need to execute like that throughout this entire game in order to come up with a victory here. Pittsburgh's defense is rolling, and North Carolina's offense is going to have to settle down and find a way to step their game up as this defense has raised their game throughout the season. Offensive line back on the field for Pittsburgh. We expect to see Alex Thorne and DiGirolamo doing work. They've worked well with each other all season long, and then combine that with the chemistry from the Thorne brothers working together, and you've got a pretty potent combination. Centered to Thorne. DiGirolamo coming in underneath. Easy gainer by DiGirolamo, starting things off.
Interesting here for for Pittsburgh. If you're scouting Pittsburgh right now, if they come out horizontal, every single time they're throwing to DiGirolamo. It doesn't matter if he's in the middle or if he starts on the sideline. You know that disc is going to DiGirolamo. Everyone's going to clear space for him coming underneath.
We have a foul called on the play. Foul is upheld by Mitch Dangler, our head observer. Play gets restarted. Finding Thorne back. Thorne handling A little bit more here than we've seen from usual. Inside break. Kunsa. Back to Saul. Vertical stack now for Pittsburgh with 3 handlers back. Finding Thorne, call on the play. Pick called.
So the disc is actually on the side of the field right now where the UNC defender is going to set up a backhand mark. And that throw that you just saw right there from Thorne is technically a very, very easy throw. The low inside-out backhand, one of the easiest break throws there is in the game.
DiGirolamo coming back. Throwing into a poach, and Saul comes up with it, puts it to Thorne, and then has a man open. North Carolina cuts it off, puts the hammer over the top to Watson. Toes the line in the back of the end zone. Pittsburgh up 5-2. Thorne with his 2nd assist in this game.
You know, they're throwing into some tight windows, but even when you throw into tight windows with those break throws, the defense is still out of position to begin with. So you have a margin of error with those break throws.
Looking at the history of these two teams, Pittsburgh now is in the national spotlight, has been for several years, but really this program got started back in 2004 when they finally made nationals in the old Metro East, back in the days when Queens Kingston from Canada actually was the #1 team out of the Metro East. Pittsburgh slowly building themselves up, and then the last several years with Cornell and Pittsburgh doing well at nationals,
yeah,
really propelled them in the spotlight.
I think you got to give the credit to the youth ultimate scene in Pittsburgh. Many of the key players for Pittsburgh right now came up through that YCC or the high school program, and that's why they're a dominant program. And that just goes to show that's how the game is changing right now in the ultimate landscape. Is if you want to be a good college team, you have to have some type of feeder program. With Oregon, that's Eugene. All of their great players over the past few years have come out of Eugene. You're talking Eli Friedman. You're talking Eli Janin. Currently, Dylan Freechild. Back in 2010, many of those players came right out of Eugene. And Aaron Hahn is the most recent out of South Eugene High School. You have to have that feeder program that is keeping your program alive. Carleton has the city of Seattle feeding their program. I would say Wisconsin is truly the most unique in that they don't have a specific location where they get all their players from, but their feeder program comes in the form of just having a tradition of working hard and grinding as a defensive squad, and having those players who led them to their national championships in the past stick around and coach in the Madison area.
Sam Ricard trying to get through the zone. Pittsburgh comes up with a D. Andrei Ababovich, senior experienced defender. Looks like the 1-3-2-1 has worked for Pittsburgh so far. A nice wrinkle thrown in the system, even though their defense was rolling. Hausman back to DiGirolamo. Putting out the space, high release, and this one doesn't find its target. Turnover. Back to Johnson. Pittsburgh now forced out of their man defense. Into the man defense. Sam McCord going deep. Can't find more for a 2nd consecutive goal.
Just needed a little more touch on that one. Kind of a laser on that backhand.
And now Pittsburgh defense gets to go to work with DiGirolamo on the field, usually an offensive line player. Very potent weapon to have once you get the turn. Drop Cho on the line, marked by Thompson.
Again, DiGirolamo is the first cut for Pittsburgh.
You have a Max Shepard here playing well off of DiGirolamo. Hausman looking deep, and he's got space. DiGirolamo making the catch just outside the end zone. Calling a timeout despite having an open cutter, Christian Pitts, streaking in the end zone.
And this is what makes DiGirolamo so dangerous, is he comes in, catches the pass in the middle of the field, and then immediately takes off deep. That's that's a sign of a smart player knowing where their advantage is. He knows that he's probably faster than almost everyone on the field, and the longer his cut is, the more separation he's going to be able to get.
Pittsburgh here not letting up against North Carolina, knowing that a lot of times if they can come through and make this game a lot quicker, it's going to save their legs for their tough matchups that could come in the semifinals and finals.
And that's a reflection of their coach. I mean, if you've ever spoken with Coach Kazmarek, you know that he is a really intense guy. He's going to have Pittsburgh with their pedal to the metal this entire game. You know, I don't even think, for him, I don't even think it's a, you know, let's save energy for next game. It's, this is exactly how I am. This is the only way I know how to coach. And my players are a reflection of the way that I coach them.
Coming into this game, one of our keys talking about North Carolina is that they could not afford miscues. They really had to come out and have their offense perform in order to beat this Pittsburgh team. And so far, North Carolina just having a couple of drops in Pittsburgh, taking advantage. And now we have another red zone possession. This can make Pittsburgh up to 4 for 5 in the red zone. Things get started right away, and DiGirolamo finds Dropcho for the goal.
And again, Pittsburgh attacks the break side. DiGirolamo, as a tall player, break throws are easier for him. Easy set play. Going into the huddle, it was, okay, you set up on the break side, I'm going to throw it to you. I'm going to break my mark. DiGirolamo had that throw, no problem.
DiGirolamo looking pumped up after that possession, and Pittsburgh is showing no signs of stopping in North Carolina right now. They're very quiet on the sideline. This is kind of what happens when they feel overwhelmed. It's hard to learn from sometimes these games. You can just get there and get your butt handed to you, and so to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, going back to learning theory, you learn most in the situations where you feel like you can succeed. And when you're down by a whole bunch in a game, you don't feel like anything is possible. So it's hard for you to maintain that focus. Like, I can still get something out of it, or like I'm still in this game. You're totally right, Brian. In North Carolina is going to have a tough time getting back into this game right now, just because they feel outmatched, and they are outmatched.
It's hard. It's definitely an element where if you're going to learn something from this, you have to start raising your own game and start finding success in the little things that you're doing right and battling, because that's what Pittsburgh is doing here. They're battling for the little things. They're battling to shut down those handler cuts to get the foot block to start the game off right. North Carolina has to have those handlers raise their game a little bit, know that their window's a little bit tighter, and just try to take success out of those few, getting those first few completions, getting things started, and then you can start to feel comfortable at that level.
Take a look at Trent Dillon in the middle of the field for Pittsburgh in white. He is 100% committed to taking away the underneath open side pass right now.
Also poaching off. Again, another plan to stop Sarah McCord and stop North Carolina's deep throws. Finding Johnson underneath. Marked by Bender, Joe Bender, another freshman. Another cut. Not with an injury earlier. Good to see him back on the field after tweaking his ankle. Finding Johnson. Up to Sarah McCord. Still looking. Call on the play. See Christian Johnson hanging out in the back.
So if you're looking at Dillon's mark right now, you'll see that he's actually rotated all the way around, full backhand mark.
Putting out the space, back of the end zone. This one's going to drift out of bounds. North Carolina not able to succeed in that end zone possession, and that's second turnover for Sarah McCord. No options available.
Great fundamentals all around. Great mark, great downfield defense, and that generates the D.
Kaufman getting things started at Dillon. Foul called on the play. Pick stays with Dillon. Trent Dillon playing from Radnor High School. Dillon looking back. Now inside break, big gainer to Connor. Call on the play. Sam McCord calling a push off for the offensive foul.
Yeah, sometimes your natural motion of your flick, your left hand actually comes up. We'll see. And it looks like he did actually clear Sarah McCord out a little bit with his left arm. Sometimes that can just be a natural part of your motion. I definitely don't think that Dillon was trying to push off, but I think Sarah McCord is right that it did affect his mark. As you can see there, he had to take a couple steps back just because of Dillon's motion.
Connor looking deep.
This is a beautiful throw.
Dillon chases it down, and Pittsburgh has a 7-2 lead. Hucks, Pittsburgh is 2 for 2 so far in this game, and Pittsburgh doing almost everything right. And if it wasn't for even the first possession where Johnson comes up with a tip catch, this game could be 8-1 right now.
Yeah, they are doing everything right. The only time that they've got scored on the only time that they got scored on in a situation where they weren't controlling the point was when Sarah McCord ripped a beautiful backhand for a goal. Every other possession, they've either had an opportunity for D or they've generated the turnover and then scored.
I got to talk a lot with the Sky guys after play yesterday, after we saw some of the pools wrapped up, and we talked about Tufts, a team that's winning games by small margins right now, but they are winning. And when we talk about a team that we expect to do well, semifinals, perhaps have the potential to win a national championship, we want to talk about teams that are winning 15-6. Pittsburgh is looking like a team that's going to win games 15-6 against weaker opponents. Right now they're rolling, and they're starting to look like that team that can go up to the top four and challenge for a championship.
And North Carolina is you know, it's almost tough to call them a weaker opponent. This is a good team with good players. Pittsburgh looks great.
North Carolina is definitely no slouches, just need to get things going on offense. Snell going back to retrieve the pole. This one going out of bounds.
It's the third or fourth pole that we've seen going out of bounds in this direction.
Handling crew back for North Carolina, really trying to take the pressure off for Sam McCord. For the most part, they have been consistent. Ernest Thompson, part of that line with Max Shepard and Snell. Tristan Green coming in the game, trying to launch a huck. Fouled on the play.
That was actually a pretty good mark here. Not an illegal mark at all, but I think that the player was actually just trying to draw the foul.
And Tristan Johnson comes down with it in the end zone. Coming on the board, Tristan Green, usually a fire starter for the defense, injured with a little bit of a hamstring issue, coming on an offense and doing just what North Carolina needs to get going.
Exactly. Tristan Green recognizes that his team needs a play to be made. They need a little fire, so he goes out there, draws a foul, taps the disc back in, hucks it for a goal.
Should be noted that North Carolina is actually 3 for 4 right now on huck completions, but they're doing it when the huck is available. They're not forcing it. They've been good decisions. The only one Sarah McCord missed on was just one that needed to be a little bit more floaty and out in front.
Tell you what, Brian, the ultimate today is a lot prettier than it was yesterday. We're seeing a lot. We're seeing the deep game open up. We're seeing the throwers being able to demonstrate their skills. It's a lot more fun.
We saw a lot of teams yesterday that were just focused on getting the underneaths, and the wind definitely played a role in that, and we saw some gritty and some sloppy ultimate. This is the championship bracket. Teams have to raise their game to get there. Be sure to check out our high-quality stream online if you're interested. You can buy our tournament pass on ngnultimate.com and get video on demand of all the games we are filming here at the 2012 College Easterns. Jonathan Nethercutt with his infamous flick pull. Not hanging in the air very long. Misplayed by Pittsburgh, allowing the defense to set up, and Sam McCord now matched up with Isaac Saul. Poached by North Carolina, works out. DiGirolamo comes up with a huge catch. Pittsburgh gets rolling once again and is moving the disc quickly. Finding Brenner. DiGirolamo.
Pittsburgh getting a bit lucky there. DiGirolamo saving the day. But since then, it's been Pittsburgh ultimate. Notice that they keep the disc moving the disc within stall 1 or even stall 2. Just that makes it so hard for the defense to set when you're keeping the disc that active.
Moving it to Kunsa. Overthrown. DiGirolamo comes up with it once again. Saving the day for Pittsburgh. Thorne just outside the end zone. North Carolina trying to prevent the high release. He goes underneath to his brother Max for the goal. Pittsburgh takes half, 8-3.
That point was DiGirolamo all day. Saves the day twice. Then throws a high release flick that sets up Thorne for the goal. DiGirolamo is one of the best players in the nation, no question.
And he's complimented by one of the other best players in the nation, by Alex Thorne. Pittsburgh right now rolling, and that's what happens when you have great players.
You're going to see DiGirolamo. We just missed it there, but he executed a high-released flick to an upline cut. That's a really, really hard throw. Most players are going to go with the high-release lefty backhand in that situation. DiGirolamo has the full arsenal. And with him playing like this, Pittsburgh will be tough to beat against even the likes of Oregon, Colorado, Carleton, the other great teams in the nation.
And we've got to halftime. Pittsburgh leading 8-3. We'll see if North Carolina can mount a comeback and adjust in this second half. Thanks for listening in to Next Gen Network's coverage of 2012 College Easterns. Welcome to Wilmington, North Carolina. We're back for halftime in the second half. North Carolina versus Pittsburgh in this quarterfinals. Beautiful day in Wilmington. High 70s here, weather, slight breeze outside. And today's game's encoded by Elemental Technologies, providing video processing solutions to deliver streaming content to any screen, anytime, anywhere, all at once. Story of the game so far, Mario, has been Pittsburgh's defense.
Yeah, Pittsburgh has looked awesome. They came out with a great plan, and they're executing it.
And DiGirolamo putting it deep for Thorne to start off the half. Pittsburgh still rolling, now up 9-3.
What can't DiGirolamo do? That's the real question here.
Right now, those two are combining to be quite a team. DiGirolamo with a second assist. Alex Thorne with 3 assists and 2 goals.
DiGirolamo is the type of player who you absolutely can't game plan for. You force him under because he's tall and fast, he's going to do that to you. He's also got the break throws that we've seen earlier in this game. If you force him out, he's going to win that foot race and he's going to beat you in the air.
Definitely, and continue to improve his game since last year. Despite leading the nation in goals at nationals, he still has upped his game, added more dimensions to it, and is becoming one of the premier players in the nation. Pat Earl is getting set to pull as the Pittsburgh defense comes out in the field. And Kazmarek has to be happy with the way this defense is playing so far. Lockdown defense, great positioning, getting the Ds, making it life tough on the North Carolina handlers especially. Center to Green. Finding Snell. Sam McCord looking for the deep option. Captain Justin Moore receiving it. Johnson. Johnson again, sophomore. Great chemistry with Sam McCord. Back to Green, and there's a drop. Pittsburgh defense playing tight there, but that's more on the North Carolina handler. Earls. Pitt called on the play.
Pittsburgh setting up vert stack. This is their D-line. Earls definitely can run the show. He's the one with the disc. Lefty handler, although he's also tall and fast. Almost impossible to mark a lefty who's tall like that.
Earls. Moving back up the line. Hausman finding Earls on the big swing. Finding Pitts for the goal. Pittsburgh still making it look easy. 10-3. Pittsburgh showing excellent efficiency in the red zone. 7 for 7 in the first half.
Again,
now adding 8 for 8 in the second.
All I'm seeing here is Pittsburgh doing what they've been coached to do. They attack the break side, they throw and go, especially near the end zone, and that makes it almost impossible to guard unless you're an elite defender. I don't know if UNC has an answer for that offensive technique.
At this point in the game, it would take a monumental effort by North Carolina to get back. Pittsburgh, Kazmarek talked at Stanford Invite about Pittsburgh, about how they were unable to play 2 consecutive complete halves. And right now they're starting to put those type of games together.
Yeah, we'll see as they get later in the tournament what they look like. I don't think North Carolina is going to give them quite the amount of pressure that that they might see against the Stanford or against the Tufts. But right now, you're right, Brian, they're rolling.
Sam McCord finding Justin Foster, can't get up for it. Just nothing breaking North Carolina's way right now. Kaufman picking up the disc. Back to Hausman. Foster trying to squeeze out Kaufman. Kaufman gaining the up the line.
This guy Kaufman must spend some time in the gym. I don't know if it's the muscle shirt, if he's just that stacked, but he's a big guy.
He's wearing a bro tank as Bender gets the disc. Bender scuba over the top. Hausman looking around, high stall situation, putting it up in the space. And North Carolina able to get their first D of the game, giving them another chance on offense. Call on the play. Christian Johnson down, marked by Ababovich. Henry Thorne, father of Alex and Max Thorne, watching on in the stands. I believe he played Ultimate, creating an Ultimate family. Some Ultimate families in the scene. The Saul brothers doing well. Isaac Saul coming after Noah, his older brother, Ruben. Tristan Green back to Sarah McCord. Inside break, finds Johnson for the goal. Johnson with his 3rd assist for the game.
Again, North Carolina able to get the goal, but it wasn't pretty.
They had to rely, they were playing good defense after the Pittsburgh got the disc back. That's the first time Pittsburgh got towards the red zone and hasn't converted so far. Mike DeNardis, coach of North Carolina, has experience with Pittsburgh, helped Iowa last year in Nationals, helped Iowa game plan 6 hours watching film for Pittsburgh, and it worked out. Iowa winning Pool A last year in Boulder.
Yeah, and I actually talked to him before the game, and he said part of their game plan was to try to stop DiGirolamo from going deep. They wanted to have the disc in his hands, and so far, I don't know if that plan is working for them. I mean, they've certainly allowed DiGirolamo to catch the disc, but when he's getting 15 to 20-yard gainers, you're not really doing a lot for your team.
We've talked about this earlier. It's hard when you're getting overwhelmed because it seems like so many things are going wrong that you can't improve enough to win. But it starts with the little things. That's all this sport is. After a while, after you get the fundamentals down, it's the little things: marking correctly, the right time to make the throw deep. All of those decisions come together, and then just your footwork, especially on cuts. That's something that's pretty largely ignored, I feel like, for college ultimate, is footwork from handlers and cutters. A lot of people are getting open virtue of their athleticism. And when the games become tight, that footwork makes the difference, a half a step here, half a step there.
Not just in tight games, but when you match up great athletes against great athletes, the more technically sound player is going to come out on top.
You can start Saul going up for Thorne. Marked tightly by Curtis Bowman. That was the matchup DeNardis, head coach, wanted for UNC.
And there we see DiGirolamo coming in again. Huge gainer up the sideline.
Kunsa. North Carolina physical on the marks. Finding Thorne. North Carolina really trying to keep the hand high when marking Thorne, forcing him to go with a lower release flick just to change his motion. Looking back, North Carolina defense getting a floaty pass. Pittsburgh comes up with a tip, and Thorne gets his third goal of the game. Looks like we have a Pittsburgh player down on the ground, though.
You know, nothing's going North Carolina's way. That's the first possession we've seen that they actually forced Pittsburgh to just punt, essentially, and they just get unlucky. Thorne, with a heads-up play, maintains concentration and comes up with a goal.
North Carolina can't come back and hang their heads off of that possession. You got what you wanted. It just comes down to a tip, and have to keep fighting.
It's hard not to hang your head in this situation. You're saying to yourself, what do I have to do to catch a break here? I'm down 11-4. We just shut down everyone everywhere on the field. We create a situation for a D, and they pick up the trash.
Talking about North Carolina and where they've come from, this is a team that actually hasn't made regionals in 2 years. They were surprisingly knocked out 2 years ago, and then last year losing 2 games on virtue of a flip due to windy games at sectionals with 40-mile-an-hour winds. And it's interesting. We don't see teams like that, but back in the mid-2000s, this was a good team filled with good players making nationals runs in that Atlantic Coast Conference that was filled with Florida, Georgia, Wilmington, Virginia, all NC State even of the mid-2000s. Connor with the pull. This one going more outside in. Caught by Green, centered. To Thompson. Back to Sayre McCord. Johnson. And Sayre McCord. Call on the play.
If you take a look at the downfield setup for North Carolina, it's not, you can't really tell what they're doing. Is it horizontal? Is it vertical? Is it a split stack? One way or the other. That's a big difference that I see between them and Pittsburgh, is the organization offensively.
Green finding Johnson, foul called on the play.
What I could say about their offense is they're definitely not running vertical. I think that's how we could describe their offensive set.
A little bit of discombobulated mess.
And that's okay. I mean, you can run a spread, and as long as everyone is on the same page about the way you're attacking the field, it certainly works.
Putting it deep, just seeing the matchup for Sayre McCord. Can't get up, and Colin Connor with his second D of the game.
You know, and we talked about this yesterday, that in pressure situations, North Carolina can't rely on just taking shots to their stars. They need to be able to work the disc, especially if they're going to find success, you know, deep in tournaments. In that case, they just took a shot to Sayre McCord, hoping he was going to make a play.
Squeezed out by 2 defenders on Pittsburgh. Things get started again. Pittsburgh in their own end zone. Chance for the North Carolina defense to come up big. Rapcho looking for an option, now forced to go back. Finding a man. Christian Pitts can't come up with it. North Carolina is going to get a chance on the goal line. Sarah McCord just calm disposition walking up to the goal line. You can tell he gives this team confidence. Puts it out to space. Cutter cannot get there. Snell, unfortunately, can't come up with the grab.
You know, and I got to say, Sam McCord made a lazy throw. If he makes a tougher move, he's going to move his mark and be able to throw a flat throw to space.
Connor taking the chance. Bobovich gets position, comes down with it. Call on the play. This one's coming back due to a travel. Sarah McCord, usually the best player for North Carolina today, has had 3 turnovers to his name, including that last one.
Nice position there from the Pittsburgh receiver. He uses his body to shield the defender. Comes up with a grab. It's coming back, but you can just see how fundamentally sound Pittsburgh is in every element of the game. Credit to Coach Kazmir.
Seeing the inside break, finding Kunsa. Call on the play. Another pick called on the play, and we've had a couple stoppages here. Game slowing down a bit. Putting up the drop choke. Out to space. Connor reaches in the air and snags it. And Kunsa back to Connor, and they're just moving it quickly here. Lots of handler movement. Now drop choke, slowing things down, taking a look. Connor initiating, and just can't grab it for the bookends. Pittsburgh starting to have a few miscues here in this second half. Not converting again in the red zone after converting perfectly 7 for 7 in the first half. Thompson, one of the consistent handlers for North Carolina, starts things off. Snell, Sarah McCord. Green, call on the play. A little bit of score updates here. We have Stanford up 8-7 over Ohio. Illinois at half, 8-7 over Tufts. Tufts again letting teams stick around in those quarterfinal games. UCF up 8-4 on Florida.
I called that one yesterday, Brian. I said Tufts was going to go down before semis. They just played too many close games yesterday.
Putting it deep. Sarah McCord comes up with this one. Easy flip to Thompson for the goal. Call on the play. Travel called. That one being turned over by the official, going to stay down there with Sarah McCord. Still should have the easy flip available for the goal. And does so back to Thompson. They do it again twice. This one counts. 11-5, Pittsburgh leads.
The one that just got caught. So we've been talking all game about Pittsburgh's fundamentals. In the last 2 points, we actually saw a breakdown in the fundamentals. Here, as a defender, we're going to take a look at what the defense does reading the disc. Now, when you're on defense, what you should always do if you're reading disc is find their body first. You're going to notice that the defender doesn't go and find his body first, and he just tries to read the disc. Remember, your goal is not to catch the disc. Your goal is to stop the offensive player from catching it. If you only try to read the disc and you miss it, Sarah McCord is going to have an easy clap catch. If you find his body first, what's going to happen is Sarah McCord might have to go up with you at the same time. And then if you misread it, he's going to equally misread it. In that case, Pittsburgh goes up and tries to make a play instead of doing the fundamentally correct correct thing of finding the body.
Welcome back to the quarterfinals here in Wilmington, North Carolina. Next Gen Network's coverage of the 2012 College Easterns. We have Pittsburgh with a big lead, 11-5 over UNC. Story of the game has been Pittsburgh's defense getting things started, converting in the red zone, and they've done a great job so far, Mario.
Yeah, Pittsburgh came out with a great plan, and they're cruising. You know, Pittsburgh has put themselves in a position to win these next games coming up after this, semifinals and finals, because they're rolling right now. North Carolina, on the other hand, they just don't have the firepower to hang with Pittsburgh. If they get back into the game, it's because it would take a meltdown by Pittsburgh, which we have seen at times in bigger situations. We've seen Pittsburgh have a number of miscues in a row. That happened at Stanford when we covered one of their games. But that's what it would take for North Carolina to get back in it. I don't think they can, you know, fight their way back into it. It's going to be Pittsburgh sort of beating themselves.
North Carolina looks like they're going to show a zone. Sam McCord is the deep. Try to attempt. Explodey stuff. Saul. Back to Thorne. To Kunsa. Back to Thorne. Saul. Basic three-man trap zone for North Carolina. Thorne going up the line. Finding his younger brother to Saul. Quick flip. All on the play.
Might be a travel called here. Can't exactly tell what they're talking about down on the field. Textbook zone offense for Pittsburgh. Keeping the disc moving quickly. Finding the first open pass, not allowing the defensive trap zone to set. See if he traveled here. I don't know if that's a travel. It looks like he stopped as fast as he could. He tapped the disc in. Great fundamentals once again for Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, travel called.
Thorne getting it back. Force back to Kunsa. Thorne once again. Dangerous in these situations. One of the deadliest throwers in the game. Goes over the top. DiGirolamo making the catch. Putting it through a space to Saul. A quick flip for the goal. Almost identical to last time.
And Thorne is pumped up. He created that goal. He created 2 goals on that one point. The first time, it came back because of a sort of a bogus travel call. And this time, he breaks the trap with an over-the-top scuba, as we see right here. And then it's just dink, 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 easy goal.
Quick movement immediately after DiGirolamo gets it to the handler. Look at this again.
And just to be clear, these 2 throws that Thorne makes are terribly difficult throws. The scuba over the top, over a tall zone, and then catching the disc and getting a quick flick off, super difficult.
The throws can't move that much faster than that. This well-oiled machine this Pittsburgh offense is, leading now 12-5 over North Carolina.
Pittsburgh has great players working within a great system.
North Carolina trying to throw a little bit of a wrinkle with a zone. Doesn't work. The man defense really hasn't been working for them well all game. Doesn't hurt to try something, but against Pittsburgh, it doesn't look like much is going to work.
Well, they've only had, 4 D points. I mean, yeah, they changed it up, but really the story of the game for North Carolina has been their inability to score and get their D-line back on the field.
Thorne laying out. Can't get there. Johnson putting up in the air, and Thorne ends up with it in his hands. Drop choke. Looking for an option. Forced to go back to Thorne. Dylan underneath and a missed throw. Tristan Green in the area. There's Thompson picking up the disc. Putting it deep for Johnson. Connor giving chase. And this one is in the stands. A lucky souvenir for that fan.
Incredible camera work here by the Next Gen crew. Outstanding.
Alex Thorne taking this one back. Putting it out to space. Trusting Kaufman to get there.
Thorne is bringing out the full arsenal of his throws right now.
Kaufman just throwing that one right to the defense behind Thorne. Things getting a little sloppy here in the waning moments. Snell with a nice around break. Up to Johnson. Sam record. Finding Snell. I think there was a pick on the play, not called by Pittsburgh. Around to Thompson. Snell. Sam record in isolation. Call on the play.
Looks like Sam McCord is saying that the defender was arm barring him a little bit, but that was just good defensive position.
Put out the space. Sam McCord can't get there. It's a play usually used by North Carolina. A lot of times where it's not hanging enough in the air.
And this is the danger of throwing to a cutter who isn't already moving. If you catch him leaning the wrong way when you throw it, it's going to be tough for him to make the catch, especially if you put a bladey throw that isn't going to hang up.
North Carolina trying to force Pittsburgh's handlers up the field. Dillon getting the disc.
I think Trent Dillon is a future star for Pittsburgh. His role, his future role is filled right now by players like DiGirolamo. But I think DiGirolamo being a senior, I think we're going to see the emergence of Trent Dillon as one of the star cutters for Pittsburgh in years to come.
Foul called by Sayer McCord. Kaufman battling to go up line. Dillon definitely having all of the tools for Pittsburgh. Foul called once again. Dillon back to Kaufman. Pushed back now. Dillon with a big around. Call on the play. We have a pick downfield. Connor. Thorne wide open deep. No one home. Thorne makes the catch for his 4th goal of the game.
And this play started with Thorne's initial cut back in the stack. You're going to see Thorne make an ankle-breaking under fake. Left side of your screen, roasts his man, and is able to catch the uncontested goal.
13-5. Now both teams, Pittsburgh just has had a long time to just trade out points, but this one is pretty much over. Looking on to the next potential matchups, we have Pittsburgh facing off with Stanford right now. Stanford in the lead over Ohio. The other side, we have UCF likely to move on, and Tufts, Illinois, engaged in a tight one.
Yeah, I'm really actually excited to see the semi on the other side of the bracket. UCF was missing some of their key players yesterday, Brian?
UCF was missing Misha Freistadter, who actually was playing basketball in Korea. That's what the word on the street is. 6'8", coming from a basketball background. An incredible matchup for a nightmare for any other college team.
Yeah, and UCF looked pretty good yesterday, even without their 6'8" stud.
We definitely see a different style of play when he's in the game, but Central Florida is filled with talented players. Sarah McCord trying to keep things a little bit closer. And then cut her underneath. Puts it out to space for Sarah McCord. Is that long frame, a big bubble for handlers. Doesn't have to make too many movements, just throw it out to space. His long arms will go out and make the catch.
This is what makes North Carolina a bit one-dimensional, is when they play against a good defensive team, they need to rely on players like Sam McCord around the disc. And if he's around the disc, there's no one that they can rely on consistently to get open downfield.
Johnson putting it up to space. Marshall Ward comes down with it. 13-6, Pittsburgh leads. North Carolina has done pretty well all game with Hucks.
We're going to see some great consecutive cuts. One great undercut and then another fake under to the nice floaty lefty backhand for the goal.
Looking at some of the potential teams, Stanford coming out of the Southwest region, rivals with California, Cal Poly slow, UC Santa Barbara. Potentially Ohio has tied that game up 11-11. Ohio from the Ohio Valley, out of Pittsburgh's region as well. And looking at Central Florida and Florida matched up in a Southeast regional battle. Potentially one bid for that Southeast with Florida, Central Florida, Georgia, Georgia Tech battling to go to nationals, filled with some great players. And after that, we have Illinois tied with Tufts at a half. Tufts breaking immediately to make it 8-8. Tufts from New England region, hoping that Dartmouth would beat North Carolina in the pre-quarters, was unsuccessful. Looking like another one-bid region. Illinois trying to represent the Great Lakes and get them possibly up to 3 bids to nationals.
Pittsburgh coming out side stack, isolating Thorne.
Running Saul back, Saul going to the ground. Up to Thorne. Doesn't hesitate to put it to his brother. Makes the grab in the end zone. 14-6, Pittsburgh leads.
And if you're keeping track of fantasy points at home, it's been the Thorne brothers all day. That's Alex Thorne, his 4th assist. He's also got 4 goals. Throwing to his brother, Max Thorne, 4 goals for him. If you've got Thorne on your fantasy, that's plus 12.
It's time for the play of the game. We have Tyler DiGirolamo making a sensational catch. We have Dave's play of the game, brought to us by Dave Birnbaum, who's watching today from Turkey. Thank you, Dave, for supporting NGN. DiGirolamo saving that possession for Pittsburgh.
Saved that possession and then took over later in the possession.
Kunze with the pull for Pittsburgh. Game point. Sarah McCord just seems out of it at this point, drops the disc. Break for the win. And Pittsburgh is moving on to the semifinals. Face the winner of Stanford versus Ohio.
And this is exactly what Pittsburgh needs going into semis and finals. They are going to be at a high level of confidence going up against no matter who they play next round. They executed their game plan. Their players made plays. Pittsburgh is rolling into semis.
This has been Next Gen Network's coverage of 2012 College Easterns here in Wilmington, North Carolina. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Jones here with Mario O'Brien, Cody Johnston keeping stats. We'll be back for the semifinals today at 11:30.